So is there a good experience that you could have, like something that you can consider very positive happening in the catacombs, or is it just a purely, like...
I think it was positive, actually. I think a lot of that, the really positive thing for me personally was learning how to handle myself under those situations. Because I became a lot more intuitive, I became a lot stronger. When I was little, I was always visited and attacked by spirits. And I always had protective spirits around me, but sometimes they would leave. And I think it was just, they wouldn't leave completely, they would just take a step back, and I was like subjected to these things, and it was to make me stronger. But this was like trial by fire. I had to learn how to be strong and handle myself and ward off negativity, like, under the worst possible circumstances. But I did have my protector. I had Jan Midlarz for the most part.
So, is there different parts of the chamber or the catacombs that you haven't spoken about yet that we should know about? Like, is there different sections or different groupings that have different purposes? And could you tell me about what happened in some of those rooms? Just briefly about what happened in those rooms.
There was one, what's it called? An artillery? Basically, these torture chambers were not only torture chambers, but when the Nazis came in, they had been sealed off for a couple hundred years. So, like, homeless people or whatever, gypsies sometimes would go down there to escape and whatever. But when the Nazis came to occupy Prague, they opened them back up, and that became their headquarters. So they were the ones who put electricity through the underground torture chambers, and they also excavated a lot of the bones that were down there. And they didn't even have to excavate a lot of them. They went down there, and the place was littered with human remains. So they put them all into this one back area, this back room called an artillery, I think. And I took certain groups back there. If I got the intuitive feeling like I could go, because you weren't really supposed to go. That wasn't part of our tour, but there were no cameras or anything down there, so we could go. And so it was past the pit. There was like, you came through where the kitchen was. There was a kitchen down there for all the guards and everything, and then you went past the pit where they used to starve people, and then you had to duck under some wires, and there was this door, so you went through. It's strange. There was a staircase leading to nowhere. There were all these candelabras. There was a bunch of bones and remains, and not organized in any way. It was just buckets and shelves and...
So there were still human remains in that room when you took people there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But like, just not in any way. There would be like a femur with a hand, and then there'd be a skull and like some rib bones, and it was just scattered everywhere. So you could just tell these spirits, anybody who was still attached to their body in any way, were just like, like...
And how did the people react when they saw these? Did they think that they were real?
They knew they were real.
Yeah.
You can tell when you see a real bone, you know it's real. Like...
Yeah.
And some of these bones were so old, they were like almost, like, not fossilized, but like, you know, they're petrified in a way.
They look different?
Yeah. And the one tour, I should have known, like, looking back, I know now. There's this one tour, and these guys are really good-hearted people. They have great intentions. They're very nice people. I have contact with them to this day. But when they were down there, this guy's like a psychic, right? And he's pretty good, but he didn't know how to handle these particular spirits. So when he was down there, he was like, oh, they're talking to me, and they were, because they can get really overwhelming down there. There's like a million voices. You feel like you're schizophrenic sometimes down there if you're like at all awakened, because you hear all these voices. Like, your clairaudience is so heightened down there because they're all... So all these voices surged up, and then this, like... He was like, oh my god, they're talking to me. The wind picked up down there. It got really cold in the room. You almost could see your breath. And then I looked, this door that we had to open, it's like a heavy metal door. And I swung it open, and I like kept it open with this rock that was there to keep the thing open. And I looked over, and the rock rolled over, and the door slowly started closing. And if that door closed, there's no handle on the inside. If that door closed, we were in there. So it slowly started closing, and it was like, okay, you make your choice now. You either get out or you're staying in here. It wasn't slamming shut, but it was like a very clear, like, you're gonna be locked in here if you don't do something about this. So I was like, everybody out, we're going. And then I asked them to please, like, not do that with the spirits. Like, please don't get them riled up in any way. If they come up, the best way. I told him, I'm like, I understand that this is happening to you, and I know that you have experience with a lot of spirits outside of this place, but from like an experienced person, the best way to deal with them down here is just to ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing you can do, and for the purposes of this tour. So I asked him to do that, but I don't know, he didn't. So in the romantic side of the torture chambers, he started doing it again, and that's when I got boxed on the ears and shoved up against the door. It was like, really? You're not going to listen? Like, get your people out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that was that, and that's Prague 1. That's what you call Prague 1, like the underground chambers there and everything that had to deal with.
Yeah, well, so Prague has 10 divisions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has more than that now, but there's 10. So Prague, and it goes in smaller circles that go out farther and farther. So it's Prague 1, Prague 2,
okay.
Prague 3.
So it's all in
and Prague 1 is like Old Town Square.
Right. It's all in diameters.
Yeah.
Complete circles. Okay.
Yeah.
For sure. So that was the main area where you used to tour, and then that was the underground catacombs you used to tour on top in the streets. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. We it was like how you got this tour started off, and you had two options with the tour. You could do just on top, like you could just do above ground, or you could do above ground and underneath.
Mm-hmm.
So most people opted for both, but some people, like especially with small kids who are easily scared, they wouldn't go down underneath. So the top was where he met everybody, and we solicited our tours with a big red umbrella, and then we'd go all around. It was cool. That was cool because that's where you got a lot of pictures and where you capture a lot of orbs. And it was like, really, it was the first physical evidence that a lot of people ever had that spirits do exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a difference between when you take a picture and it's dust in the air, or you take a picture and it's an orb. An orb will often have like a pattern in it. Sometimes there'll be a face. They'll be glowing a lot brighter, and you won't see them with your naked eye. It's only when you take a camera with a flash on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that some of the Canon cameras, their flash is too bright, so they completely cancel them out. But it's actually like the cheaper the camera, the better your orbs will be. And have you ever taken pictures like when you're in a dance hall or at a wedding or at a funeral or something, and there's like those things in the air?
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Makes sense.
Orbs. They're like
Probably thought forms.
they're sometimes they're thought forms, they're spirits, they're angels, like fairies. Most of the time, they're spirits that are attached to that place. So that's mostly what we got when we were up there.
Interesting.
Yeah, the really interesting part of the tours is the underground torture chambers, and then the 27 noblemen. They're in Prague. I never knew what this was until I started doing these tours. Like, these tours taught me so much about Prague. There's Old Town Square, and then you've got St. Vitus Cathedral over here. And if we're looking at the Orloi from here, just right around the corner, there's all of Old Town Square, but here, just in the ground, there's all these white crosses in the ground in stone. It's all gray stone, and then there's 27 white crosses, and that marks the spot where that's like the exact spot where these 27 noblemen were murdered. Like, executed by Jan Midlars.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was for rising up against, they were Protestants. I used to be able to rattle this off so crazily, but now the details are foggy to me. I have to look it up again.
That's
but
okay, there's a lot of things
they caused an uprising, they caused a revolution, and it was crazy. Like, they had to... Jan Midlars, and these 27 noblemen, one of them was Jan Midlars' best friend, the other doctor that used to come and give him medical supplies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a story about how his executioner's swords, one day this doctor came down into his office, and the executioner's sword just started swinging, like, on the wall. And that meant that it wanted his blood, and one day it would get his blood. And it did, because he started this uprising, and since he was the loudest as well, Jan Midlars had to cut out his tongue. He was ordered to cut out his tongue.
And then he killed him.
Yeah. And then after that, because of this execution, Jan Midlars did something. This one detail's fuzzy to me, but I forget what he did. But after that, he was condemned to exile. And the woman he had remarried, not Dorota, he had remarried another executioner's wife. She committed suicide. He became so depressed after this that he just, like, basically left the executioner's role. He did something, I can't remember what it is now. But he left that role and was basically condemned to death himself.
And just he wandered? He never got executed?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't even remember.
It's okay, there's a lot
There's a lot of details that I used to rattle off. But...
So everything that you talked about so far, that played the main constitution for your ghost tours. Is there anything else that you haven't touched upon that is of major detail or necessity that would enhance our knowledge of this, or that?
The Templars we used to talk about. The reason we have Friday the 13th is because King Henry V ordered all the execution of all the Templar Knights on Friday the 13th. And another weird tie-in with Prague, how this all ties together for me, is because after the Templars disbanded, a lot of them became the Knights of Malta.
Yes.
And I ended up living in a building that was in Malteschi Namesti, which is Malta Square, the Knights of Malta, in the exact building where these guys used to be lodged. So I lived there when I came back to Prague. And
my brother, this very day, is a Knight of Malta, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is very interesting.
Malteschi Namesti.
So 3 quick questions.
But I guess so was I.
Sure.
What did it mean, romantic part of the dungeon? I missed that.
So romantic part of the torture chambers is when they were built, so it's the different architectures, the Gothic architecture and then the Romantic architecture.
Oh, so it's just an architectural term.
Yeah, but it's also kind of ironic.
And the executioner said to you, like, would he revealed things about himself to you under what circumstances? Like, what would he say and why?
Just the...
Or is it just because you're close, he's there, you pick up his memories?
I think it's there that I pick up his memories and I was able to... in my experience, a lot of spirits have something they want to pass on to the living. That's why they hang around.
Mm-hmm.
So he, I think, was afraid of being painted as this executioner who killed all these noblemen and like da-da-da. Like, he didn't want to be painted just as an executioner. He wanted people to know that he did some horrible things to people. That was the nature of his job. But that's not what his intention was.
Right.
So that's the nature of his job. Sometimes we do things that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the first wife, when she was a ghostie, was she there with him?
She would come and go.
You met her?
I met her and I started linking with her actually quite a few times. I think also that I sort of had a lot of qualities that Dorota probably had, so that's why he had such an affinity for me as well.
And in tradition, the Tibetan Lama would go meditate in a graveyard, or the Indian medicine man would go meditate in a graveyard to kind of test their ability to deal with the uncanny or the negative. Because to be a healer, you need to be able to deal with the dark side. So if we brought down a Tibetan Lama and put him in the room and closed the door and turned out all the lights, could he do his Chodrite or his Prajnaparamita meditation and liberate these beings who are stuck?
Probably, man, but that's a big job. I would not want anybody to be alone down there. I was alone.
Well, I mean, in the sense that maybe he could have 3 or 4 backup, but
Yeah.
it's a you think you're good at this meditation, let's just test it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I used to do Midlar still comes to visit me sometimes. He pops up. I don't think he needs to necessarily stay in the torture chambers, but I think he needs to have somebody, in order to leave them, he needs to be going to visit somebody who has a link to them.
Yeah.
So I'll wake up sometimes and he'll be standing by the bed.
So
he wants me to... I've done TMO on the torture chambers quite a bit. Ron Clark's...
Yeah, Magic of Yod Vafe. It's a Kabbalistic canticle that can be used for so many different things. It's basically a recreation of the middle pillar that the Hermetic Order of Qumran used, but it's used in such a different way. And it encompasses the elements within the canticle. It encompasses the tree of life, and it can be used for anything you could possibly imagine, from raising one's own vibration to linking with your higher self, to creating a shield, to getting rid of negative energy in a room, to basically surrounding a space within even the temporal finite moment, and creating a vibration there that can be used, and it's multi-purposed. And Kirsten and I do it. I would say I would like to say regularly, but when life
I do it quite a bit, but
Yeah.
I'm not as like there's like 9 different levels to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only probably at level 4 or 5, and I haven't studied anything higher. So Aaron's much more advanced in it than I am. But I do it regularly. Like it's just like almost like a mantra that comes to me now.
So you're saying you were doing it down there?
I wasn't doing it down there at the time because I didn't really know about it.
Okay.
But now when Midlars comes to visit me,
Uh-huh.
he asks me to do it, so I do it.
Oh,
So I do it like psychically, astrally there, and it
And-
really helps. Oh my god, it helps. So much.
helps in what way?
It calms everything down. You can when I do it, it's not like this for me at any other time, but when I do it down there, it's like this waterfall, like these rapids that go rushing through it because it's just needed so bad.
Mhm.
It's amazing, and I can feel that the energy around that is calmer for a couple days after I do it.
So if an angel appeared to you and said, this one soul is now ready to go into the light and you're the greeter, what would you, so improvise and take the executioner into the light so he's free. What, can you imagine even doing that? Or is that, is
Maybe
it,
now.
can you
like,
understand the idea as if it's, is it an invalid concept?
I think it's becoming more valid. I think that he is searching for a way.
Mhm.
He's not ready to do it yet.
Mhm.
Like it's just not possible. Normally, when there's a spirit around me that needs to go into the light, usually it's because I know that they can because I see like the light around them in some way. Sometimes it's very small and distant and faint because I haven't seen it or it's just coming, and sometimes it's like this big gaping hole that they just don't want to go into. Jan Midlars, it's starting. It's not as dark around him as it once was, but it's not. Like, I don't see that light around him anywhere yet. So, I guess I could imagine it one day. I would love to do that for him one day. And I know he's searching for a way to be able to do it.
Oh,
But
so
yeah, he's a very different spirit.
the fact that he visits you is indicates he's searching.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, I think there's a past life tie for me there.
Sorry, just laughing
So,
about
the
Okay.
voice.
Great, all right, it turns out.